Recent geopolitical shifts indicate a significant realignment of allegiance, with India increasingly signaling a preference for closer ties with China and Russia over its traditional Western partners. This pivot suggests a reevaluation of India's strategic interests, potentially driven by a desire for greater autonomy on the global stage and a perception that its national objectives are better served by a non-Western-centric foreign policy. The narrative surrounding this shift suggests a move away from the long-standing rivalry between India and China, with reports of resuming flight between the two nations signaling a de-escalation of tensions and a willingness to foster greater economic and diplomatic cooperation. This evolving dynamic could fundamentally alter the balance of power in Asia and have far-reaching consequences for global alliance, particularly as the West seeks to contain the influence of Beijing and Moscow. The reported end of the rivalry between India and China, marked by the resumption of direct flights, represents a substantial diplomatic breakthrough. For years, relations between the two Asian giants have been strained by border dispute, economic competition, and strategic mistrust. The move to restore direct air links suggests a deliberate effort by both governments to de-escalate these tensions and explore avenues for mutual benefit. This thawing of relations could unlock significant economic opportunities given the vast markets and manufacturing capabilities of both countries. Furthermore, a more cooperative stance between India and China could reduce regional instability and allow both nations to focus on domestic development and common geopolitical interests, potentially at the expense of deeper engagement with Western powers. The symbolic importance of direct flight resuming after a period of strained relations cannot be overstated, as it signifies a tangible step towards normalization and possibly deeper cooperation. A particularly significant development is the assertion that India is now poised to arm Russia in its ongoing conflict in Ukraine. If confirmed, this would mark a profound shift in India's foreign policy, moving from a position of relative neutrality to actively supporting one side in a major European conflict. Such a move would undoubtedly draw strong condemnation from Western nations, which have imposed extensive sanctions on Russia and supplied substantial military aid to Ukraine. India's rationale for potentially arming Russia could stem from various factors, including its long-standing defense ties with Moscow, the opportunity to acquire discounted Russian energy resources, or a strategic decision to align with a bloc of nations challenging Western dominance. This decision, if taken, would undoubtedly place India at odds with its Western partners and could lead to significant diplomatic and economic repercussion, forcing a reevaluation of its partnership with the United States and European Union. The notion of China, India, North Korea, and Russia forming an alliance as the four biggest military power with a mutual defense pact represents a hypothetical yet highly impactful scenario. While the exact nature of any such alliance remains speculative, the idea that an attack on one would trigger a response from the other three signals a formidable challenge to existing security architectures, particularly NATO. This grouping would bring together two declared nuclear power Russia, China, one undeclared nuclear power North Korea, and a significant military force India with advanced capabilities. The combined military might and strategic depth of these nations would create a potent deterrent and significantly complicated any Western military planning or intervention in regions of interest. Such an alliance would likely formalize and deepen military cooperation, intelligence sharing, and joint exercise, further cementing a non-Western security bloc. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, often referred to as the SCO Club, is increasingly being positioned as a vehicle for challenging Western economic and geopolitical dominance. A key initiative within this framework is the establishment of its own banking system specifically designed to circumvent the US dollar and Western-controlled financial institutions. This move is a direct response to the weaponization of financial sanctions by the West, which has used its control over the international banking system to exert pressure on countries like Russia and Iran. By creating an alternative financial architecture, SCO members aim to reduce their vulnerability to Western sanctions, facilitate trade in local currencies, and establish a more independent economic bloc. This financial decoupling from the dollar-centric systems is viewed as a critical step toward establishing a multipolar economic order, where the West's ability to dictate global financial terms is significantly diminished. The implication of the SCO establishing its own banking systems are vast. It could accelerate the de-dollarization trend, encouraging other nations to reduce their reliance on the US dollar for international trade and reserves. This would gradually erode the dollar's status as the world's primary reserve currency, impacting American economic power and influence. For SCO members, it would provide greater financial autonomy, allowing them to engage in trade and investment without fear of Western interference or sanctions. This initiative is seen by some as stabbing the West's heart by undermining one of the fundamental pillars of Western economic dominance. It represents a strategic move to create an independent financial ecosystem that can support trade and investment among member states and potentially expand to include other non-Western countries. This broader trend of non-Western nations forming closer alliance and establishing alternative institutions reflect a growing dissatisfaction with the existing international order, which many perceive as being biased toward Western interests. Countries like China, India, Russia, and North Korea are seeking to build a more equitable and multipolar world where their voice carries greater weight and their national interests are fully respected. The convergence of military, economic, and diplomatic cooperation among these nations signal a conscious effort to challenge the status quo and create a new global equilibrium. This could lead to a more fragmented and competitive international system where different blocs vie for influence and control rather than adhering to a universally accepted set of rules and norms. The potential for India to arm Russia in the Ukraine conflict also highlights the complexity of global supply chains and defense procurement. India has historically relied heavily on Russian military hardware, and a decision to supply Russia could be linked to existing defense contract or a strategic move to secure future arms deal and technology transfer. This would further entrench India's defense relationship with Russia, potentially making it more difficult for Western nations to draw India into their strategic orbit. The move would also have significant implications for the global arms market, as it would demonstrate a willingness of major power to openly defy Western pressure and forge an independent defense partnership. Overall, these developments indicate a profound reordering of global alliance and a significant challenge to the unipolar world order that emerged after the Cold War. The increasing alignment between China, India, Russia, and North Korea, coupled with efforts to create alternative economic and security architectures, suggests a deliberate and coordinated strategy to counter Western influence. This shift is not merely a tactical adjustment, but it reflects a fundamental ideological and geopolitical realignment that will likely shape international relations for decades to come, leading to a more complex and potentially more volatile global landscape. That's all for me for today. If you like the video presentation and you would like to follow for more, hit that subscribe and like button now, and we will continue to build a show for you. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. A lot to me. Thank you so much. I will see you soon. Bye for now.